Welcome, baby, to the Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. I'm your host, Alex the Great, and I'm joined by my brother from another mother, MB, Mr. Simon, putting the full government out there, man. Um, man, if we would have had cameras in the building at Carlos's wedding, we would have caught some great content, some great sports talk, man. Being out there with the bros. It was a good time. A lot of discussions were had. I sat there and talked to Ashley for a second. She was like, "Why are you guys just so passionate about sports?" I said, I can't really explain it." I was like, you got, "Did you see my ranking?" I think you saw. I said, "Yeah, God, family, sports. Those are our alliances." In that order. So no, that was a good time though, man. And in all of that, there was a lot of sports happening, while we were at the wedding. So, I mean, let's jump in, man. Let's explore these byways and highways and overways and underpasses and overpasses and super speeders.
I actually passed through this one to get to the wedding, but let's hop into Spaghetti Junction.
We got traffic incoming, covering all the biggest news in ATL sports, no matter the lane, no matter the highway. Let's get into it with Spaghetti Junction.
So, it is the return of a legend, the man, the myth, the Ronald Acuna came back um, with a blast, right?
Literally.
It literally came back with a blast. First pitch, first swing, first home run of the season. I know you were watching it live. I was watching some playoff basketball. Um, but tell me what was your reaction, man? Did you scream?
No, I mean, I'm a pretty quiet person in general.
Mm,
I hold my emotions pretty close to the chest.
mm.
So no, there was no screaming, but I was excited. He smacked the leather off that ball, man. 467 feet at home, in front of a truest crowd, which it's nice that he could do it at home, right in front of the home fans. But just seeing him round the bases, I don't know where this kind of celebration came from. That they said it's like the grenade something or another, but you'll see them cover their ears. I noticed him doing it in Gwinnett on some clips during his rehab assignment, and just seeing him do that, round the bases, do his little jab step before he gets to third, you know, do his little hand clap, praise the Lord as he's coming home,
Praise him.
and then he gets into the dugout. And you could just see the emotion. Like he sits down, and it's almost like you could watch the weight just exit his body. Like
Mhm.
the anxiety, the relief, all the hard work, all the time off, just like in that instance, you just see it vanish. It was a really cool moment to witness. Obviously on television, not live, and I don't think you would get that same experience if you were there. But it was really cool. I was excited for him, excited for the team because Ronnie brings an energy that this team is lacking, a juice that you go back to the 2021 season, and we are those guys, the Pearls, the Jock Peterson, the swag, the energy that the team had. I think really carried him through the playoffs. So I was really hoping, with Ronnie back, the energy that he brings in that game. He had the home run, he had stolen base, he had a couple excellent defensive plays. He had one where he threw a guy out trying to turn a hit into a
Turn two.
double. So instant impact, right? Unfortunately, the outcome of the game was not a victory. We had to wait an additional night for Ronnie to get his first participation in a W this season, and we're still waiting for another.
Yeah, we are. Real quick on that Selly, man. That is a John Morant original. He couldn't fire off his blickies anymore, so he started throwing grenades into the crowd and covering his ears.
Okay.
So he started that. Hats off to Mr. Pew Pew, and I loved that Ronnie did it. I thought it was hilarious.
He's been doing it. He has multiple home runs already. He's only
Yeah.
played in like 6 games, maybe 7, and he has multiple home runs. He's made an impact. But the team as a whole is still struggling.
Yeah, he it's not 7, is it? Today's what, Thursday? Today's Wednesday. His first game back was Friday.
I think today is game. Well, we'll have to look. His first game back, was it Friday or was it Thursday?
It was Friday. I remember on the radio.
Yeah.
92.9 a game. Shout out 92.9 a game. Ali Mack is the new host of the morning trio, and her and Grant McCauley, her husband, they had tickets to.
I heard this segment. Yeah.
Did you hear that? Yeah, they
Yeah.
had tickets to a show on Friday, and Grant was like, "Hey, I need to push because Ronnie's returning."
I couldn't have been Friday because my kids had a half day on Friday and they didn't go to school. And I heard that segment driving home from dropping them off at school.
Yeah, no, they talked about it during the week,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was
Yeah.
the concert that they were going to was Friday.
Gotcha.
Um, and just to go to your other point about how it didn't end well, I've been telling you about this guy, man. Feels like he's becoming a reoccurring theme in baseball. The a la Kyle Pitts, who'll get a feature today. But yeah, Rafael Iglesias, man, I don't understand why he keeps getting chances. And I got to go back and look at his statistics from last year because not just you, but the other talking heads. I mean, sports media in general said that he had a stellar year. And I just remember so many moments like the one Friday where it's like, man, we're either tied or winning, and he blows it. You got one job, man. Go out there and get 3 outs. And to me, he ain't that good at doing his job. So
He certainly hasn't been this year, and it has been a point of discussion in the media, in the talking heads. Um, Brian Snicker's been asked about it multiple times, and I think I text you. Your boy's at it again.
yeah,
Multiple times last week. You're right. Ronnie returned on Friday. He's only played in like 4 games. They got
multiple bombs though.
multiple
I do
bombs
know
in
that.
4 games. Bunch of losses. I think that's what had me thrown. Is last week was an extremely long week. Sorry we missed you guys. We're back. Uh, we don't know if we're gonna go back to weekly or bi-weekly, whatever. We'll let you know. But we missed last week because it was a really long week for the two of us. Um, but it all blended together, right? all the games, because even in the busy, I try to keep up with the Braves.
Yeah. I was I didn't realize that he was coming back, and then you sent me that message and the return of La Bestia. La Bestia. So now that was cool to see that, but yeah, I wish it could have been in a winning effort.
Yeah, and I had said on our previous episode that I didn't think we'd see him till June. We saw him about a week and a half early, right?
Yeah,
Just over a week
a
early.
week. Yeah, we'll
So,
call it a week.
yeah, I was kind of surprised when they made the announcement, but it comes on the heels of the return of another guy, Spencer Strider. He made his second start in his return stint last night. Um, didn't go, according to plan. They lost 2-0. Overall, a decent outing though. I don't think he had a earned run. Maybe one. He had one earned
He had
run.
one, yeah.
So overall, decent. But the results just aren't there. Couldn't get the bats going.
And beaming. I I don't have a whole lot of love for Bryce Harper, but I don't ever want to see anybody hurt, right? I do think that he really gets the juices going for me though, and in the most negative way, but in it brings some passion to the game. So I hate that a man got beamed on his surgically repaired elbow. Seems like the X-rays came back negative, but that's just not characteristic of Spencer Strider and his stuff. Like he's throwing the ball really hard and fast at you. He's usually not hitting you. So
Yeah. I mean, his velocity is a little bit down. Coming off the surgically repaired elbow. Was not Tommy John, but it was, some sort of UCL repair.
UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA. Um, but I'm kind of with you. It's uncharacteristic of him to hit a guy, and he was still, even when his velocity's down, I think he still hit him 95. It's odd to me that Bryce Harper would not be wearing a elbow guard. That's just, I know if I was prone or had a history there, I probably would be protecting that elbow. Um,
It seems like it'd be a bit cumbersome.
I will say I'm with you. I'm not a fan of seeing other guys hurt, but I definitely debated whether or not that was my high for the week. That's competitive juice you were referring to that Philly brings out. So
So I didn't actually see Spencer's numbers. So he did 4 2/3, 7 strikeouts, which he's a strikeout beast. He walked 4 people.
yep.
Um, were you watching last night? Did he look like himself? That doesn't sound like him.
So he did look good overall. He had pretty decent command. He wasn't getting swings on some of his breaking stuff. Um, a lot of those counts that he walked people on were 3-2 counts. So it wasn't like
Mm,
he was out here just throwing 4 straight balls and walking folks. He did pick up a few of those walks late. That's ultimately what got him
pull.
pulled from the game before he could complete the fifth. But they're trying to keep his pitch count a little lower, so they're trying to ease him back.
I mean, the strikeouts are encouraging. Obviously, I think it's gonna be. It was never gonna be. Maybe there was a chance it would be like instant classic when he arrived as well. But pitching is hard, especially against the Phillies. I think they're the number one team in baseball right now,
I
or
don't know.
top three.
I don't know if they're the number one in the league, but they are the number one in the division for sure. They've passed the Mets, who were leading for quite some time.
I just did a quick Google AR, and they are the number one power rankings.
Okay.
CBS power rankings, they're the number one spot.
Yeah.
Followed by just run down real quick. Philly, Detroit, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Cubs. Oh man, the Mets are up there too, huh? Giants, Cardinals, Twins, Mariners is top 10, and then we are number 17. So still bottom half, but a lot better than the 27th that we were a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah.
we're still on the climb. We'll see how far we can climb. It hasn't been great. We'll talk about that later. All right. And then there was another Braves roster move, man, that caught me off guard, probably because I just haven't been paying attention like I should have. But Orlando Arcia was DFA'd, and he has since signed with the Rockies. But That feels like that came. I guess it didn't come out of left field because I heard about Nick Allen and how well he's been doing defensively. Um, but they let him go.
Or see you later.
Yeah. And, to think about Dansby, truly, uh, that's why he's gone, is because we thought Arcia could do the job full time, and he did. He was an all-star. Just doesn't seem like that was sustainable. So
I mean, let's be honest. The reason why Dansby's gone is the same reason Max Fried is gone. It's the same reason why Freddie Freeman's gone, and that's Liberty Media is a bunch of cheap pricks.
plus, they can only be cheap when they think they have at least a serviceable replacement.
I don't know if that's true, right? Like,
Yeah, think
it,
about it.
it's about
Freddie,
dollars and cents.
who replaced it is for sure. I think that's the primary. I'm not taking that away. But I also don't think that they are just absolute fools.
So
They're greedy.
they're not the ones putting together the roster. They're the ones that are signing
Signing
the
checks.
checks. The Alex Anthropoulos, that's his job, and I had a brief conversation with our boy Dion. I think he would make a good guest. You talked about all the debates or the conversations
Yeah.
that took place at the wedding. I think Dion will be a great guest to have on here one day. But AA is ultimately the one responsible with finding the replacement. And, Arcia, I think it was fool's gold. Maybe the same thing we got with Matt Olson that year after those guys left. It looked like they were going to fill the spots, but they just haven't shown that same level of potential since. And Arcia has been a drastic difference um, compared to Matt Olson. Matt Olson's still giving you productivity, just not at the level that you expect a guy
Or need.
or need for a guy replacing Freddie Freeman. Um, but Arcia was abysmal, absolutely abysmal in his last two seasons.
Max Fried was that was internal. I think they thought, and I think they're accurate in thinking that Schwellenbach's got some good stuff.
They are
Um,
they
he's
they
good.
it is accurate that you know Ronaldo Lopez, Schwellenbach, Strider, all those
Chris Sale.
Chris Sale, all those guys are top notch. But I think Max Fried's like one of the best in baseball right now.
I try not to follow up on Braves once they've left. I
Especially when
haven't
they
seen
join the dark side.
Man, it's 7-0 right now with the ERA of 1.29. 67 strikeouts. Um, I don't remember what WHIP is, but .93. That seems low. What is WHIP? Wins.
Walks, hits, innings pitched, I think.
I mean, he has one of the best in the league right now. So
Yeah, like, he would. I'm pretty sure he's a front runner for
Cy Young.
Cy Young at
Walks
this.
plus hits per inning pitched. Yeah, you had it. It's a
Yeah,
saber metric. What the hell is that?
it's like one of those advanced metrics that they
Mm.
use. I don't know who coined the term saber. I'm sure it's somebody's legacy, but it's just an advanced metric.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his pickoffs this year.
There's a hilarious video out there of him and who was the base runner? Um, I don't remember who the base runner is, but he goes and he like fakes like he's gonna throw it to second to get the runner, and the runner like fakes like he's diving back. And there's just like this really funny
Yeah,
image of the two of them in their like
cat and mouse.
their poses.
Yeah, that is funny. You had to send me that.
But
Man, yeah, I didn't know he was balling like that, man. That's I don't want to say unfortunate, but that's unfortunate. Come on, Liberty, spend that money, man. I already conceded the Freddie point. I don't have to concede all the other ones.
Yeah, but
Dansby hasn't been balling. Let's look at Dansby.
he had a rough year last year for sure. But I mean, the Cubs are balling this year, and he's part of that team. So
He was also he's like one of our leading voices in the dugout.
So that's a topic that I think a lot of people have brought up, that this particular makeup is missing that guy. Dansby, Freddie, they were very outspoken voices, leaders in the locker room. I don't know that that's truly the case of what's wrong with this team, but it's certainly, a valid argument.
Yeah, I think you need somebody to be that guy, right? Um, Without a leader, it's nothing to really attach yourself to. Obviously, you're being paid to do your job, but if you're not doing your job in unison with the rest of the team, if you're not elevating other people's game around you, then you're not going to have sustainable success.
Yeah, I just don't know who can rightfully say that the locker room is missing a leader. Like, their voices, right? Um,
I mean, even Snit doesn't seem like a leader. He's been. I'm ready for him to hang it up, man. Maybe it's too early to say that, but I'm getting there. He just doesn't seem like he has that same passion that he did before. Everything is kind of meh.
yeah, I mean, Snit's always been a very calm, like even keel type of manager. Not too many high highs or low lows. He just kind of stays pretty central.
But
Um,
now it's like, what happened? Who did? You said one of my players? Like, come on, man. Pay attention. You're supposed to be managing.
yeah, and some of the decisions have definitely been questionable. I still don't know how I feel about the current makeup of the roster. Like, we talked about it. You have to play Ronnie, obviously. Uh, but you had some good things going with Eli White and Verdugo in the lineup.
Hmm.
Eli White definitely is the better defender of the two, but Verdugo brought some juice to the front of the order, leading off. And basically, since Ronnie's been injected, our offense has been uh, mid at times. And last night, Snit started Eli. I think Verdugo started one of the other games. So I don't
To
know.
be fair, it was mid pretty much all season until like the last like week and a half prior to Ryan's return. They started to get some bats going. But for the most part, it's been kind of trash.
With the exception of like Austin Riley and Drake Baldwin, who have been pretty good. See that? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to keep going into the Braves too much because we had other topics we were going to bring up in Spaghetti Junction that we might end up having to punt to keep this episode from being 3 hours long. But I'm not a huge fan of guys coming in and out of the lineup a lot, just because baseball's such a rhythm game, like especially hitting. Like, you got to see pitches, a lot of pitches, arm angles. You got to take a lot of at bats to get into the groove of seeing the ball, hitting the ball, you know. And when you're not playing every night, it's hard to stay in that rhythm. And
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's amazing that Drake Baldwin has done what he's done, being a platoon catcher with Sean Murphy all season. And then you throw in that same kind of, issue with now Verdugo and Eli White. Before, in the very beginning, you were doing it with Arcia and Nick Allen, but you saw Arcia wasn't giving you anything. So you just kind of went all in on Nick Allen. So, that just, in my opinion, just strengthens my point. Like, there's a reason to keep these guys in night after night. giving them a night off, once in, you know, 10, 15 games is one thing, but every other night or every 2 nights.
There's only so many spots in the lineup, man, and the situation gets worse because I think you sent me that article. I might have found it on my own, about Jerickson. We definitely talked about it. I think we talked about that maybe at the wedding. Um, how he's going to come back and he's going to take somebody's spot, but he won't be able to play in the playoffs. So do you play him at all?
They had that debate on 92.9. I think it might have been the same morning. They all run together. Um,
Yeah,
uh, but
morning carpool, baby.
yeah, it might have been the same morning they were talking about Ronnie's return. But to me, when Jerkson returns, let him go, let him walk. Yeah,
Baseball money is fully guaranteed, though, right?
yeah.
You can't trade him. We can't trade nothing. Trade him for nothing.
I mean, you could, but I mean, if you can get something for him, get something for him. But I'm not putting him out there. Squid had a completely opposite perspective. I think uh, Mike Johnson kind of agreed with me that why would you want a guy out there who, once the playoffs come around, you got to throw someone else in there who hasn't gotten that rhythm and not hot at the moment. Whereas Squid was like, well, you got to get to the playoffs, and if Jerkson, helps you get there, then play him. I don't know that he helps us get there. Is my argument.
You paid him enough money to find out, right? Maybe give him the month of June to see what he can do for you.
Yeah, I'm sure because of the money attached to him, we'll see him out there. But as you said, there's only so many spots in the lineup, and all I care about at this point is winning.
Yeah, yeah. I don't care who's out there as long as they're winning. I do. I want our team to remain healthy, but if it's a healthy scratch for somebody versus someone else, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
All right, we talked a lot of baseball. We can be quick on this one because as soon as we say they got to win, I'm sure they'll drop the 5 games in a row. Atlanta United finally got to win.
Currently trailing 2-1.
And I did not know that in advance, right? Like I just felt it in my bones. Um, did
Yeah.
you have any other things to say about United?
Struggling ball club, man. Encouraging. They scored 4 points or scored 4 goals on I think it was Saturday when they played. Got the W. Is the first time in like over a month they gotten a win. So it was definitely encouraging. But tonight they're against their rival Orlando City FC or SC, and they are trailing currently in the second half 2-1. So um, they need to get results, man. They're digging themselves what feels like an insurmountable hole in
Hmm.
terms of any chance of making playoffs this year. So do better, United. We are all expecting a lot more from this club, given the money and investment that they put in the off season. And if they don't, that seat gets warmer and warmer each and every day.
Yeah, we're 8 goals behind Charlotte for a playoff playing spot, which ain't gonna cut it, my brother.
Yep. So just
Uh, yeah, go for it.
another quick news. The NCAA baseball tournament bracket has been released. I don't know if they do like a bracket Sunday the way um, football and even
March
basketball
Madness.
do. But it was released. I think it was on Sunday. UGA is a 1 seed for their Athens regional. The baseball NCAA tournament is a really bizarre format that my brother-in-law explained to me. I think it was last year, and I can't remember what he said, but it is very weird. Um, and they are a overall seventh seed. So
First and seventh?
So they list like the seeds, overall seeds, like top 16, and they
Yep.
are the 7th, but in their regional, which they have regional, super regional, I don't know. It's a different type of bracket, but they're the number 1 seed, meaning they'll host that first regional. And it's just like 4 or 5 teams in each regional, and then
Got it.
the
Yeah.
winners of those, I think, go to the super regional, and I think I don't know where they play the super regionals. I think they're hosted by probably the highest seed, and then they go to Omaha. I think after that.
So it looks like Georgia, Oklahoma State, Duke, and I can't read this one. Hampton, maybe. The font's very small. Georgia Tech is also in. Georgia Tech, Western Kentucky, Murray State, and Ole Miss. I can read all of theirs.
Yeah, Georgia Tech was snubbed. They were a number 2 seed in their regional. They'll have to play in the same regional as Ole Miss, which was one of the top 16 seeds uh, in Oxford. But it's the first time in some period of time that an ACC regular season champion did not get a 1 seed.
Hmm.
So, but they were also not considered in the top 16. So,
Shout out to the state of Georgia collegiate baseball, man, having dual representation there.
yep.
That's good. Um, it'd be funny if the Braves ended up with the Bulldog on their roster because I have desires. Obviously, the Falcons win Bulldog with Jalen Walker. The Hawks, I actually want to go Bulldog. We won't dive too far into this, but I want them to get Asa Newell. It's a lanky lefty that runs the floor, and he has some bunnies, and he feels like he'll be a great sidekick for Mr. Trey Young. But if we went, Georgia on football, basketball, baseball, man, I don't know. That bodes well. We're getting that championship pedigree, even though, only football has one. The university as a whole has championship pedigree. We have those on those professional rosters, man. Maybe it'll bring us some rings.
Yeah, I saw a Barstool Athletics. It was like a matrix of athletic programs and party schools, where
Mm.
like the top right corner, so you're high on both axes. Uh, top athletic program, top party school. UGA was like right there. Not at the peak. They were. They had Alabama over UGA in terms of the athletic programs to party school ratio. But they were still up there. They were in like the top 5. So all that to say, the athletic program as a whole, not just the football team, very good. One of the tops in the country. Very good at golf. Very good at gymnastics and tennis. Getting better at basketball.
Getting better.
We all know about the pigskin, and baseball's had a good 2-year run. So they just need to keep it up.
I was looking for that Matrix just to see it because I love a good Matrix, man. There's the classic, the hot crazy Matrix.
Yeah.
So if she's less than 7 crazy and more than 10 hot, get out of there because she's a dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. And then we had some racial stuff, man. Let's talk some black people and white people. Race war. Brittany Griner is and I don't. So I'll tell you this: when I googled it, because I had not heard that yet, the thing that popped up more was her walking off during an interview to yell at a referee.
Mm,
Did you see that?
no.
Yeah, that was pretty funny to me. She said, do fucking better," right? You can hear her yelling that while she is walking back into frame. Like she is literally being asked questions. She walks clean off to talk to the referee, and you can hear her coming back into frame saying that. But the Dream not only played Caitlin Clark, but beat Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. And that's a terrible name, Fever. Reminds me of sickness, Corona. Um, but she got in a little bit of trouble. She was, well, you break it down. You told me about
All right, so a little bit of Brittany Griner controversy. Now, shout out to the Dream. They are 4-2. They are fourth in the WNBA right now in the standings. I think they're 1-1 against the Fever this year. Um, but Brittany fouled out in the most recent game. Was on the bench and was recorded mouthing what has become controversial. Uh, Neither you or I were at the game. I'm sure someone nearby probably heard and could tell you what was actually said, but there's a one wing of the media who is claiming that Brittany Griner's comments were directed towards Caitlin Clark and they were racially charged, referring to her as trash and a effing white girl. But I've also seen where people have said what she was really saying was trash, effing whack call, and referring to the referee and the foul call that fouled her out of the game. And, I would honestly believe either one of those to be true. But as a lot of topics in our society right now, you get down the internet rabbit holes, and you get the race baiters, you get the racists, and all of the nasties come out and have to give their 2 cents in the comment section.
it. It's nasty work to get views based off of making like super racial takes. Um, but we're gonna do it. No, I'm just playing. We're not. We both watched the video and tried to lip read. It could have easily been either one. Um,
And
all in all, it's
given the circumstances, honestly, it makes a lot of sense for it to have been, trash call.
yeah,
But
towards the referees fouling out of the game, her being upset about that. Yeah, I think circumstantially, it does seem like that's probably the more likely call. And the fact that I couldn't find like an ESPN or a Yahoo article about it, it was really just YouTubers, getting their clicks on. I don't know where you saw it. Did you see it on national media?
I saw it on, it wasn't a national media site. It was probably on an X post, or um, it could have even been a Bleacher Report notification. I saw it in a news article, and then I saw the clips, I think, shared by Riley Gaines, who's a notoriously right winged former athlete, has been very outspoken about her take on gender in collegiate sports. She was a swimmer herself, so she made herself famous debating the whole Leah Thomas situation.
Mm.
But anyways,
If we don't want to talk about race, we can talk about gender if we want to get some clicks.
no, unfortunately, unfortunately, it's a topic that comes up all too much. But it comes on the heels of a situation that occurred in another Fever game where Caitlin Clark fouls Angel Reese extremely hard. She gets called for a flagrant foul and immediately gets attacked by a lot of former WNBA players who basically want to make it about Caitlyn being white and Angel Reese being black. And that even went even further with RG3 making some comments, just trying to state a fact or opinion that he has. It was just a statement. It was a statement of opinion where he believes that there is a legitimate disdain that Angel Reese has for Caitlin Clark. Going back to their college years, going back to last year, and some things that transpired. Either way, it was his opinion. Brian Clark got involved, making some comments that just spurred a feud between the two of them. So all of this Brittany Griner stuff, I think, timing wise, is just trying to piggyback off of that. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, to your point, um, sometimes the media uses race as a way to garner clicks, garner discussion, and ultimately, I think it's you know detrimental to progress because all it does is it brings out hate in everybody. Um, at least those that comment and view, and it just become the comment sections literally become a cesspool for negative, terrible views on life.
yeah. I was gonna say on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Like in the social media world, there definitely is a a downward spiral that occurs. But in real life, uh, specifically on the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, they don't have to like each other.
No.
One, two, their feud is good for the WNBA. Those are some of the most watched games, by viewership. When they play each other, people's eyes are on the screen,
Yeah.
and that's not something that you can always rely on with with the WNBA. Right. I was watching. I might have sent it to you a Club 520 clip with Jeff Teague, where it was said that not Angel Reese. Well, they did mention that too. Jeff Teague was like, "Look, that's a fair basketball play. It was a foul, but he also was like, hey, I got love for you, Angel. You flopped a little bit. Like, come on, you were selling it." And he said that's basketball too, right? It was basketball on basketball, and because of who they were and because one's black and one's white, there was a lot of salacious discussion about it for views and clicks and all of that. But he also said Caitlin Clark, she's played like 20 games, maybe less, and she's already third in the in the WNBA in triple doubles all time.
Yeah. Like, well surpassing the Diana Taurasi's and like the WNBA greats. It's wild. Statistically. And I think I caught part of that clip or someone talking about those statistics specifically in a different one. Um, but yeah, no, like I agree, it's good for viewership, but I also think it is on the internet, it is on social media, but it does bleed into society. Like sports are such a big proponent of our society. I mean, if they weren't, it wouldn't be a multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
Yeah,
And
100%.
I think there's a lot of sentiment that transcends the basketball court or the football field or the soccer pitch when it comes to race in general. And when you see these things, it becomes confirmation bias, and it carries over into other aspects of society and aspects of life. Now, are there issues that need to be addressed and taken care of? Absolutely. Uh, but when it's, such, when it's a topic that is discussed over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, continually, I think it can be counterproductive at times.
America as a whole is addicted to racial debates, right? I mean, we have a history of racism in this country. Um, So it's not just sports. I would counter what you said to say like you think black people and black really girls like they're looking and have aspirations of being in a league. Do you think they're not in Indiana? Do you think they're not Caitlin Clark fans because of injuries? Mm-mm. Do you have a maybe in the W? It's because it's a players' league more than I'm a Hawks fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how many people are like Dream fans. Like you got some Ryan Howard fans, some Brittany Griner fans. I don't know what that actually looks like, the fanhood of the Dream. I need to go to a game and see what that looks like, but that kind of negates my point. I would think that everyone in Indiana is a Caitlin Clark fan, black, white,
Yeah, I mean,
green, yellow. You know
I don't watch the WNBA, so I
what?
huh, yeah, shocker. Um, but I don't know the fans all that well, but at least what you see, you would think that if you're a black girl growing up with aspirations of playing WNBA basketball, Caitlin Clark is not the person you're looking up
Just because there's a lot of other women,
to. Yeah,
right? Um, but if you're in Indiana, I think she is. Like regionally, I think there's a possibility that she is just because you have the opportunity to go see her most frequently, right? You might not be able to get out there and see Asia Wilson or uh, Erika Gubawale. Or
yeah.
no, that's not. That is a player, but that's not who I'm thinking of. She plays for Dallas. She's a walking bucket. Like she's entertaining to watch play because she just scores at a very high clip. But you got some some fire white women too, like Sabrina Ionesco is good. Brianna Stewart, Kelsey Plum. So I think everybody, well, black and white people, there's more than that, just that in America, right? But um, we're not talking about Asian versus Hispanic racism or Asian versus black or white versus Hispanic. That does happen in other spheres. Generally with sports though, it's black versus white here in America. And I don't see that going away. It's just
I don't
it's the
think
nature of our country.
I don't think you see it as much in other sports as we are in the WNBA. When you look at the NBA, for instance, like kids that are growing up now are looking at the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the Jason Tatums. Like where where is the white representation? I mean, Joker,
White people can't play basketball, man.
Serbians,
No,
white
no. I mean,
chocolate
and
begs
Joker is not white,
no, he's
right?
Serbian, right?
Yeah,
Um,
but you got the T.J. McConnells, the Tyler Heroes. I mean, the NBA is majority black. Right. As far as a percentage breakdown, is very black.
I believe
Whereas the
it's
WNBA, I
true.
think, has more parity as far as race is concerned.
I think the demographics are actually quite similar in the WNBA, but I think in terms of superstars, it is more, um,
Diverse.
yeah, in the WNBA. And in football, I mean, I think within position groups, they tend to be dominated by one or the other. But you don't see a whole lot of you know racial discussion on quarterbacks anymore, right? Like that used to be a thing. The Warren Moons, and the style of football that he brought. You know, there was a lot of debate at that time, and you just don't necessarily see that anymore. You have good quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and um oh, what's your boy in Baltimore? His name's
Lamar.
Lamar. Michael Penix. You got the Kirk Cousins. I mean, you got representation all over the place, and they're
But we definitely talk about
equally.
race and football a lot. We were just doing it a couple weeks ago with Shador's situation. We're talking about it with
I th-
ownership.
I think
It's the racial presence is very strong in NFL
it
conversations.
it can be definitely some lack of representation and ownership, but I think the Shador situation was somewhat similar to the Brittany Griner situation in that it was manufactured to create discussion.
Yeah,
That there was something truly going on with those with that situation, and I think people were grasping at straws as to why could this be happening, and the obvious go to for most situations like this is make it a racial thing.
the easiest go to,
Yeah,
right? And the most beneficial is not the word. And
tantalizing.
tantalizing, impactful go to is race. And I don't see it, man. I don't see us getting away from that. That's just kind of who America is, right?
Well, I think it's
I did,
interesting though because we're not the only country in the world that has a history of racism. There are, there's a lot of it right now in the Middle East between two specific groups. Um, but
but that's not race.
it is.
No, it's not. You're talking about the Israelis
Mm-hmm.
and the
How
Palestinians.
how is that not race? It's ethnicity.
It's not black versus white, right? We're
There are
all
many.
Americans.
There are many different.
There, yeah,
I'll tell
definitely,
you.
right? There.
When I
Go for it.
took my DNA test to find out what race I was 40 something percent Ashkenazi Jewish. There is a Jewish race as well as a Jewish religion. And the reason being is that they don't, for many centuries, didn't interracially mix, right? Like they didn't cross pollinate, if you will. And so they created their own genetic markers.
Hmm.
So it is as much a race as it is, you know, a country or, you know, I would be willing to make that argument. And that's pure racism. They hate each other because of them not
There
being the
what?
same, right? Or not
No,
believing the same.
believing the same. That's my exact point, right? Um,
They hate each other because
Palis-
they're different. And those differences
yeah,
stem
but
from beliefs.
not race though,
But it
right?
is because you are born a Jew in Israel or you are born a Muslim.
Yeah, and those are religions, not races. You have black Muslims, you have
You do,
Asian Jews, right?
but
Those are races.
there is a the religious Jews, but there's also the ethnic Jews.
I get what you're saying. I'm talking about Israel versus
Mhm.
Palestine is Jews versus Muslims, not whites versus browns, if that makes any sense.
I hear
Where
your point,
here,
but I
check
think
me out.
that
Here we can have a white Christian and a black Christian that hate each other because of their races. That's
yes,
to me
but
is racism.
that could
America
exist.
does not have a we don't own racism. I will say that. I think that was your main point. But where you went for your example, it threw me. So so
Yeah,
now we debate.
I'm sorry. I would challenge you though, like not now or here, but research it because they don't necessarily just hate each other because one's Jewish and one's Islam. They hate each other because it's a power dynamic for the region and the
They're
territory.
holy and spiritual lands They both are making claims on the same holy spiritual lands, which to me
Yes, it
ties
is,
back to religion, not race.
but they believe their birthright based off of their ethnicity,
Right?
which is their race.
It's not.
Uh, well,
Man, now we have left the realm of being a sports podcast. I mean, I think that's it's a super interesting discussion, right? I don't understand. I don't remember where we pivoted from as far as
well,
to even go back to anywhere.
we were
But
talking
I
about the
but I
Brittany
appreciate
Griner
that.
situation and the controversy, and just in general, the racial tones that tend to dominate the media, and how they've, you know, bled into sports. And I was making the point that I think they also bleed from sports back into society. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think society that's kind of where I was going. Is I think society bleeds into sports
I think,
and not the other way around. Maybe there can be there's no, I'm wrong. There's definitely flows from both, but I would say that society definitely influences sports as well as sports influences society.
yeah. Well, I know that the way and we talked about uh all of our love and our passion for sports, and how it's, number 3 on the list of priorities in our lives. um I think the reason that we tend to gravitate towards it is it can be a unifier, as well as, the competitiveness, and there's a innate sense for humanity to want to belong somewhere. And
Hmm.
that could be belonging to a religious group, that could be belonging to a um some other type of belief group, but it can also be, you know belonging to a sports team or a group of fans. And like I said, that at least in years past, um, and even now, like you see it with the Olympics, it can be a uniting force. It takes you away from some of those nasty societal things, and gives you some sort of common ground to come together in most cases.
Yeah,
But there
you
are,
can unite against your common foes, but there is a foe in
yeah,
all sports.
but those foes have many different faces and many different colors, and the foe tends to be a name or a logo, not a person. Although sometimes the person in that logo and that name does garner some
A
additional
reaction.
passion, like the Bryce Harpers of the world. Um, and there's a few in basketball that I just can't stand. But we don't have to talk about those.
Uh, Tyrese Halliburton, but he is very good.
For you,
Um, yeah, yeah. Woo, man. I'd be remiss if we didn't get to another segment. So let's pivot, man, and talk a little bit about Hispanic people. No, just playing. I don't want to leave anybody out, man. We love Hispanic and Chinese people and all the races that are here in the melting pot that is America. So you guys can catch some jokes too. Um, but we're gonna talk about the birds. That is the more Falcons than anybody. But Hootie Hoo, got my Hootie Hoo back, man.
From the gridiron to the hardwood, you know you got to keep your eyes on the birds. Let's talk Hawks. Let's talk Falcons. This is Hootie Hoo.
OTAs, voluntary OTAs have begun, and there is a name, several names that were not there, two names. One of which, Mr. Kirk Cousins, not unexpected to me. Did you think he was going to be there? He did go to an earlier offseason uh, event, right? But
yeah. I mean, So you and I had this debate, and we don't have to rehash it. But we had this debate a while back where I thought that, you know, because of all the circumstances floating around Kirk Cousins, that there was a chance that he could become a toxic presence in the locker room, and that
Mhm.
he could make some decisions that weren't necessarily professional. And you said, you expected him to be an outstanding citizen, outstanding teammate, regardless of his position or standing with the team. So yeah, when he showed up to previous off-season voluntary workout sessions, I was like, okay, Kurt, Kurt's gonna do the right thing. And then for me to see that he's not here, I think it's a message he's trying to send to the team about his unhappiness, where things stand today. And I do think that that's not the professional approach to, like, if you're going to be that model teammate, you'd be there. This is more about his wants and
Mm,
desires than being a good teammate for the time that he's with the team.
100% agree that this is about his wants, desires, but it's a last ditch effort. And when people want to try to get when NFL players are trying to accomplish their mission, generally not showing up to OTA is how they do it. And his mission is to still get traded. The regular season hasn't quite started. He is the best backup that we're gonna have. And I think once the preseason and regular season starts, I do still think that he's gonna be with the team if he's still around. I think his character won't allow him to get too far down in the weeds. He ain't gonna play, so why go to OTAs? If this is your last effort to make yourself heard, like, hey, I don't want to be here. I think he has to do it. Has
Yeah,
to not go.
I get it. Like, I totally understand it. I'm not even mad at it. The question was, were you surprised? I was a little surprised because, I
He went to
was,
the other one.
I was on the side that this is the expected. It was expected before. It was expected now. He did the unexpected before, so I was expecting him to, continue course, and he didn't. So he deviated a little bit. So I was a little surprised. Now, the name that I was really surprised who wasn't present was Kyle Pitts, and I'm not gonna lie, I got some flashbacks to some training camps in the past where certain players were absent and they ended up having bad seasons. So my initial reaction was like, dude, you're not good enough to be skipping practice. Like, what are you doing? Come to find out today, he's actually there. He's just not practicing because Buddy has a foot injury, a
Yeah,
nagging foot injury at that.
and they only attach nagging to injuries when they're gonna be all season long, right? He's gonna be on the team for what it looks like. Um, when he's on the field, he doesn't do a whole lot for me. Him being off the field doesn't do a whole lot for me, but I want to see him succeed somewhere else. Is the best way that I can put that. I'm tired of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna be on this team. I want him to be successful. But if he lands in a trade package that includes Kirk Cousins and we end up with a decent return, I'd be okay with that as well.
I know we just drafted all these edge rushers between last year and this year, but I saw an article today that said that Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati has to be boiling right now, right? Because he had a decent running mate, and then they went out and drafted Shamar Stewart, and they haven't given him his money. And at one point, he was said to be, a piece that could come to Atlanta. What have you heard anything more about that? What would you think of that? What is that overkill to also add Trey Hendrickson? I don't think so because he's one of the best in the league. You take the best players available.
I don't think it's overkill at all because even though we did go heavy edge and defense, you're still missing, I think, a killer on the inside, and I think Trey could be, more of an inside pass rusher. He can
It's like
also,
defensive tackle. He's
yeah,
defensive end.
I know he can play defensive end, but he's more of like a true defensive end lineman, whereas like James Pierce and um,
Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker are outside linebackers, right?
Right. Right.
And that's what I mean. He's more hand in the dirt type of defensive player. So you could slide him inside a little bit and have one of those guys outside, and they could double team aside and like good
It's
luck.
nasty work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point.
But
And maybe something transpires there. We can get Kyle Pitts up there to Smoking Joe.
I'd be remiss if I didn't news break right here. So dun
Like
Atlanta
the
U
camera zoomed in and went out.
near Atlanta United came back and won 3-2.
Did
So
they really?
they stacked 2 wins together. So I know it's not a Hootie Hoo and it's a Spaghetti Junction topic, but like I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't make that announcement.
Best team in MLS, baby. We back. Now, it is good to beat your rivals, right? Orlando City is said to be the rival of Atlanta United. So nice to get that win, man. And 3 points is good.
All of them.
Circling back to
Kyle
the real
Pitts.
football. No, not Kyle Pitts. So yeah, if we can get Kyle Pitts off for Trey Hendrickson, that'd be great. Uh, another trade that is being discussed would be Mr. Kurt Cochains to the Steelers. Steelers have expressed interest because they're out here fooling around with Aaron Rodgers. I made a comment about that, like, man, they I can't believe they let themselves get hamstrung by this old man. Did you hear what Terry Bradshaw said?
No, I did not.
Oh man, you gotta read it. I can't even paraphrase it properly. Basically called him like a tree hugger who, is not the Steelers way and needs to go on back to California and eat some bark
Mm.
or do some shrooms. Like Terry fired off on him, man. It was really good to have that support from him. He obviously watches the pod. But no, he lit into Aaron Rodgers. So if and I don't like what he's doing. All this, look, make a decision, man. Right? Do you want to take the whole summer? You're not Tom Brady, okay? And you never will be. You get him in there for a year, and then what? Nothing. You're back to zero anyway. So you might as well take Kirk Cousins off of our hands, give us a little bit of that bread, allow us to sign a backup quarterback because I don't know who's even in the room with Big Penix.
I don't recall, but I know there's at least 2 others on the roster. No, I agree with you, but what you trying to get in return? Because there was one player that I think is intriguing, and I don't think this is a legit possibility, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. But DK came to
Oh,
the
okay.
Steelers because he wanted to be on a better team, and then they turned around and traded um, Pickens,
Russ.
George
Oh,
Pickens.
George Pickens.
George
Yeah,
Pickens is
Wilson's
gone. Russ is
gone.
gone. They have
Justin
no
Fields is gone.
quarterback. Like the team got much worse after he.
Najee Harris is gone,
Yeah,
right? Didn't he leave?
yeah. So that is the name that I could see being like, what the heck am I doing here? Let me go. I know I just
Yeah,
got
he's a
here,
Charger.
but it's time to go.
I thought you were gonna say T.J. Watt because he was a no-show at OTAs, like Mr. Kirk Cousins, because he's trying to make a point.
Yeah.
Um,
We signed
we definitely getting T.J. Watt though.
Easton Stick. Remember, we signed him.
Easton Stick. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
him
right.
and Emory Jones. He's the other one.
Got it. Mm. When I go to the depth chart, I know those players are on the team. When I go to the depth chart, it just says Michael Penix, Kirk Cousins, no one else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this it's gonna be interesting, man. See how this all shakes out. Um, more Falcon stuff. There's a podcast. We gotta figure out how to get it. I want to support Black business. The Squad app. That's we mentioned it a couple of oh goodness, a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Julio's retirement announcement. How there was just the small clip, but the full clip was played on the Squad app. There's now a podcast, at least an episode of a podcast with Julio Jones, Harry Douglas, and Roddy White, three Falcons greats, um, discussing the good old days or the bad old days, depending on the topic they were talking about. I know you saw some of that.
Yeah. So I can't think of that trio without thinking of my boy Lee's old fantasy football name. Uh it was Julio's White Harry D.
That's a good name.
But the trio, right? The
Hmm.
Legacy Locker Room podcast, free shout out. So it looks like this is gonna be a common thing for the three of those guys to get together. Um, but I have seen the clip you're referring to, where Roddy White is discussing his departure from the Atlanta Falcons, and he says some interesting things, specifically in regards to Kyle Shanahan and how he was used. Um, he said that he believes that Kyle Shanahan is the reason why he eventually left the Atlanta Falcons,
And
and that
retired. He didn't get picked up by
yeah,
anybody else. Yeah.
and how the situation transpired was uh, he would basically be part of the weekly install in practice, and then in games they would take him out of the game instead of giving him targets. And when he confronted Kyle Shanahan and just said, you know, yo, what's up? Like, what is going on here? Just be real with me. Kyle responded that he did not believe that he was one of the top four targets on the team, and that in a uh, game time decision, he would go for Julio, and the other names will blow your mind. Leonard Hankerson, Jacob Tanny over Roddy White.
And he had hands and he had a lot of good catches, but Devontae Freeman, what? In a passing play? That's it's kind of upsetting, right? That it feels like Kyle Shanahan, one was delusional, but two, he kind of ran off an all-time great Falcon with bad player management. Why even give him the snaps in practice, right?
See, that's the part of the story that I find most befuddling. Like, let's not let's not pretend that at this point in their careers, you know, Roddy was not in his prime, right? Like, he was definitely on the decline of his
Hmm.
career, and he was not the same player. But to give this man all these looks in practice and then just completely ignore him come game time seems so counterproductive, right? Like, why waste the effort? It's almost patronizing, right? Like, oh,
It is.
I'm gonna give you these looks in practice just to keep you satisfied. But when it comes to game time, you know, you can ride the pine. Um, yeah, it's that's the part that's most perturbing to me.
You know, the thing is, he was on the downcline. I pulled up his stats. So in 15, he played 16 games. He had 43 catches on 70 targets, one touchdown. But the year before, he had 80 catches, almost 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns in 14 games. When I pull up Leonard Hankerson's numbers, this man has never done anything close to that. His highest career, his career year in catches is 38,
Yeah.
and that was his second year in the league.
His
Um,
those names are straight disrespectful to Rock.
Disrespectful.
But
Yeah,
he did mention Julio Jones, which
of
that
course.
is a completely different discussion. But yeah, I mean, just to tack on to that clip, there was another clip that you shared with me that was Julio Jones speaking about the Super Bowl 51, which I looked up today just out of curiosity, and NFL.com lists Super Bowl 51 as in quotations 28-3. Like
I literally just saw that.
how disrespectful.
It's crazy work.
But Julio talking on that game talks about how he only had 4 targets the entire game. And like when I think back to that game, I think about a couple miraculous catches that he made. And to think those were his only targets is
It's kind
even
of crazy.
it's maddening.
Yeah.
Um and you could tell he was upset about it. And in your words, sounded a little bitter.
Oh yeah.
And I definitely don't blame him, but it does all this coming out from 2 Falcons greats, legends. It makes you wonder, question at least the Kyle Shanahan um 2 seasons that he gave us.
Yeah, and then he's had some success out in San Francisco. Um, Gotten close either to the big game or in the big game a number of times and never been able to close the deal. I label myself a full hater. I never wanted him to win it. After I do blame him for a large portion. He wasn't playing, but he had a huge hand on the way that the game went. The fact that we're still, known as 28-3, a lot of that's his fault, in my eyes. So I've always rooted against him anytime he had a big moment, and he has not disappointed. And now hearing this stuff about him now is like maybe it's confirmation bias. But it's like, yeah, he wasn't that good anyway, man. The bum.
Just adds fuel to the fire for sure.
Yeah, man. So good riddance, Kyle Shanahan. We do have to figure out a way to get that pod. Because I like to hear the other. I'm sure they're talking about some good stuff.
I I want to watch it, and I have a completely different motivation than I think most people. I want to watch it just to listen to Julio Jones speak.
Yeah, no, I think that's gonna be the motivation for a lot of people, a lot of Falcons fans. He was not a very vocal player. Never really heard anything until he was saying, "I'm out the door, man." So it'd be nice to see. I bet you they get into that. They have to, right? Everyone wants to know what happened with Julio.
Yeah.
Will he answer? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But definitely interested in hearing him talk about his Falcons career and what led to his departure and everything else that happened to his career here.
I also, I was never like a huge Roddy fan. Like I definitely appreciated Roddy for what he was, but like I wouldn't have ever gone and bought his jersey or anything like that, which I don't really do that anyways. But during his time on the Falcons, like Tony Gonzalez was my favorite player when he was here. Roddy was just another one of those guys, solid player, great player, great franchise player, but I never really connected with him as a fan. But in searching for the Legacy Locker Room podcast, came across some clips of his. One where he was discussing just kind of like his journey to the NFL, and one was When his mom dropped him off at college, she basically said, "You're not coming home. You're on your own now. Spread your wings and fly." Uh, Not his words; those were mine. But in essence, she basically just cut the cord. Said, "All right, go get it. You're not coming back." And he talked about how that kind of mentality fueled him to just work, and how he always saw his mom, working multiple jobs to make ends meet, and all the effort that she put in to giving him the opportunities that he had to play football and to do the thing that he loved, and just how when she said, "You're on your own now. It's up to you." He used that as fuel, and I thought that was a cool story, and it made me, um, as a fan, want feel a little bit more connected to him. I had a little bit more admiration for him and his journey, and I hope in their podcast we get to see more of that side of all of them, right? But yeah, I was encouraged, or I was inspired to listen to more from Roddy after listening to that game.
Yeah. Of the three, Harry Douglas is definitely like the most vocal one, being on ESPN, and then he featured on 92.9 The Game a bunch. So I feel like I know Harry.
Yeah,
Um, he's a big Falcons fan. He's still in the community. So yeah, it would be interesting to learn a little bit more about Roddy. I remember a story that Matt Ryan told when Rod like surprise inducted him into the Ring of Honor. I don't remember exactly what he said about Roddy outside of him being loud, but he did describe him as a great teammate. I think he has some insight too that I just can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, now we gotta find out and see what's popping in that podcast, man. Are they as good as us? Probably not, but it'd be good to have some discussion points.
for sure.
Yeah. So honestly, brother, I think we're a bit long. If we can do elevators still. I just
Real
think we'll
quick,
probably have
highs
to
and
cut it
lows.
short. Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump on them elevators, man. Highs and lows of the week. Here we go.
From the parking garage to the penthouse, no one takes you on more highs and lows than Atlanta sports. Let's me, you, your mama, and your cousin too get on this elevator. Don't touch the button. We got you locked in.
Or not the week.
2 weeks, week and a half, day.
Weekish. Highs and lows recently. We share a high. Ronald Acuna, we talked about it earlier. He's been out for almost a year, or maybe it
Over a
was
year.
a full over a year.
Mm.
And first pitch, first at bat, beginning the game, cranks it 467 feet. That was a joy to see. I did watch it after the fact. It was really nice to see. And then yeah, the bomb. I love that celebration, man. Which is a lot worse than shooting people, but
uh,
whatever the NBA decides.
so I never would have gotten the full reference unless you told me. So
Mm,
I think, the pew pew is a lot more like identifiable from the naked eye than, someone just talks. Like all I see with Ronnie is him cover his ears. So I never even noticed
he
the
threw a grenade.
grenade. So I
Go
think,
back and watch it again.
yeah,
You'll
no,
see
I
it. And
will.
then the NBA references it like directly. The first
Yeah.
time the guy just kept doing it. The first time he did it, he's like, "Did he just throw a grenade in the crowd?" Like, oh man.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that was a high for sure.
for
Short
whatever,
lived, but a great high.
I definitely think it's if you analyze it, it's probably just as bad, if not worse. But I just think there's just a stigma, with the pew pews that it's just different,
Yeah,
right or wrong.
right or wrong.
But yeah, definitely my high for the week. I think it was just under a year by a couple days, because I know they referenced on the broadcast either last night or the previous game where it was May. It was whatever this day a year ago when Ronnie injured um, his knee in Pittsburgh. So almost a full year
Yeah.
without Ronnie.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a great welcome back moment. Short lived, but a great moment. And then Milo, we talked about him, so I won't go too far into it. But Kyle Pitts, man, showing up to OTAs hurt. Like I don't know what he was doing, or maybe he was training and really getting after it and trying to prove me wrong, or a lot of people wrong, and just had a freak accident. But
Or maybe he's just made of glass.
very, very disappointing. Or maybe he's just made of glass. You know, that was hugely disappointing. That's a basement moment for me.
Yeah, for me, this one was hard for me to really pick. The Braves as a whole, uh, I'm pretty disappointed with how they've been playing. But also, the Kirk Cousins situation, not showing up to OTAs, I was definitely disappointed. Like I said earlier, I thought he was going to show up since he was there at the previous voluntary workouts. I
Hmm.
understand the business of it, so like I'm not bashing the guy. It's just I was personally disappointed. Um, and then up until these last two games, there hasn't been much to root for United. So kind of a hodgepodge there with lows.
Yeah.
Honestly, it feels like there's been a lot more lows than highs recently. Um, so hopefully we're on the come.
Sham, NBA newsbreaker, he said he thinks this is going to be the most exciting offseason of NBA basketball we've seen in a very long time. And I cannot wait.
Yeah,
I hope the Hawks are heavily involved without trading away Trae Young.
I do too, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it here. Next week, let's carve some time, or in our next episode, whether it's next week or 2 weeks, let's carve some time to discuss, Hawks' future plans. Because
Yeah, yeah.
that was the main topic of discussion this past weekend. At the wedding, getting opinions. So since you weren't part of that discussion, let's do it right here.
Can you fill me in? Yeah.
Yeah, so appreciate y'all. I know this was a long one. It's hard when there's so much going on 2 weeks, and we're so passionate about the stuff that we do. We could talk about this stuff all day, all night. Um, but we try to package.
Sports, race, and religion, baby. We're rebranding.
Yeah. We try to package it into something that's digestible for y'all. So go ahead, hit that notification bell, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you're feeling, what you're not feeling. And we appreciate your support. Till we see you next time. Deuces.
Peace.